Fascinating Premier League relegation market, particularly given that the top two in the betting take up a lot of the market. I'll quickly look at the prices here and go to you then, Mark. Luton 1.39, Sheffield United 1.69, the two aforementioned teams. Nottingham Forest 3.75, Bournemouth 3.85, Everton 4.2, Wolves 4.3, Fulham 4.9, and I'm going all the way down to show Burnley, who are also promoted but are way down the market at 5.7, Palace 9, and West Ham 9.6. Some interesting picks, Mark. You're two here. You're basically looking for a bit of value against the top two in the betting, I guess.
Yeah, so a promoted club has been relegated in 27 of the last 31 seasons. Last season, I think, was just the second occasion all three promoted clubs stayed up. Now, I have a feeling that trend will be correcting itself a little bit and balancing out with Luton and Sheffield United expected to struggle, understandably so. I flip-flopped with Luton a little bit. When they won promotion, I thought they could cause a few headaches and cause a few surprises, but understandably, they're being quite smart in terms of their business, and it's almost like they're pre-planning for another championship promotion assault in a season's time. So I think they will provide a few shocks at Kenilworth Road. I don't think many Premier League players will be accustomed to playing in those kind of surroundings. The supporters are right on the pitch and very vociferous too. So I think they could be a potential bogey team for a few down there. Blades, obviously, Iliman Jai is just gone as well. For whatever reason, I'm just not feeling them this season at all. So, and look, when you look at relegated or promoted teams in the relegation market, they're always going to be shorter than possibly you ever anticipate because they are promoted teams. The market is always well above that. So you're never going to get value prices on promoted teams to be relegated immediately. So you do have to look a little bit beyond that. Yeah, I looked at one of the recent trends actually since 2010. 7 teams have finished 17th, a place above the drop zone, and 5 of those 7 went down the following year if they weren't already. So Leeds being the most recent case, Everton finished 17th last season. They're 4.1 now to be relegated this time around. I can't really work out why they're 5th favourites in the betting. Now, I like Sean Dyche. He's overachieved throughout his career, but this is looking like a really tough test, and it's a really important time for Everton. They're moving to the new stadium next season. Premier League football is absolutely paramount to their future, but Ashley Young isn't an inspirational signing. Danjuma possibly is, but they've lost a few players along the way. The squad is looking worryingly thin to me, lacking standout quality. The midfield trio of Onana, Gay and Doucouré are obviously the sort of prized assets in the spine alongside Pickford, Tarkowski and Calvert-Lewin, but how many times is Calvert-Lewin going to get out on the pitch this season? We don't know. You've also got an African Cup of Nations in the early years, so you're going to miss Gay and Doucouré from that as well. That's quite concerning. And also Dyche, he only won 5 of 18 games after taking charge last season. Everton were the second lowest goal scorers. There's only so many times you can kind of scrap and scrape your way to survival. So I just think 4.1, more so because Bournemouth are below them in the market. And I think that's disrespectful. I think Bournemouth are definitely a club who will be looking up rather than down compared to what the market is suggesting. So that is a concern. But I'll just kind of run you through my big price outsider, which the price has been cut all week, which is really frustrating. But West Ham, I put them in at 10.5. They were as big as 13.0 earlier in the week, now into, 9.6. Sometimes betting isn't about what you think will happen. It's about backing the price and probabilities of something happening. I don't think it's unrealistic to see West Ham have a tough season. They've basically been, 3-4 times the price of others around the top end of the market. Yet they've been involved in a relegation scrap in 2 of the last 3 seasons. They are in the bottom 3 for 28 of the 38 game weeks last season. The best player has been sold. They've not made any sort of moves in the market to sort of patch up that squad. There's been talk about fallouts between David Moyes and the directors in terms of transfer approach. Obviously, moves for certain players have already broken down. Moyes was on the verge of being sacked throughout last season. He's almost been given the job by default after winning the Conference League, and a lot of sort of goodwill went his way. But he could easily have been gone well before then. So, and also, they were given a lot of allowances last season for their poor league form because they were in Europe. Well, they're in Europe again, so they've got a similar sort of schedule. So, I think West Ham, if you're looking for a team, because ultimately I think you possibly are just paying for one relegation place here with Luton and Sheffield United and expected to be involved in the dogfight. A big price outsider does appeal to me. We saw last season with Leicester, reputation doesn't stand for anyone really. So wouldn't be too surprised to see West Ham being dragged back into it. The vibes, the goodwill vibes of last season seems to have been evaporated already, and they're going into the new campaign with a bit of pessimism around them.
Yeah, and both those teams have had quiet transfer windows so far. Mark is picking Everton 4.1 for relegation and West Ham as an alternative at 9.6. And Adrian, you've two more cases for two different teams. But again, I can see both these teams perhaps struggling this season as well.
Yeah, look, Luton and Sheffield United, it'd be staggering if they did survive. I've got to be honest. Losing at Iliman and Jai is a real blow for the Blades. But what might be worth doing is just waiting to see if one of them or both of them start quickly, and then that price might go up a little bit. But over the course of so that might be the time to jump on board back in Luton or Sheffield United to go down. You know, if they start better than expected, because I can't see them surviving. Now, who has the third place? I've got a couple of alternatives. Totally, get the reasoning behind Mark's choices, that they'll be there or thereabouts, I'm sure. But I'll start with Forest. 3.75. Obviously, they are the third favourites to go down. Haven't had a good pre-season. Performances have been pretty poor. Brennan Johnson, the vultures are circling for him. Several clubs are sort of trying to outbid each other. I think Brentford are in for him, Villa are in for him, and I think it'll be hard for Forest to avoid selling him at one point. The price is getting to a point where he may go, and that'll be huge because his pace is electrifying. And with him and Gibbs White, if you take one of those two out, they are not the same team. Very reliant also on Tayo Awoniyi up front. If anything happens to him injury wise, as it did last season, I think they might struggle for goals. And I just look at their away form, and it was so bad last year, that I don't see how they're going to improve that massively this time around. They've only really brought in Ilanga as somebody new over the course of the summer. And the big question mark is, can they be as good at the City Ground as they were last season? That atmosphere, that sort of hostile environment definitely helped them out. Their goal difference was minus 30. They conceded 68, they scored 38. Two of the three teams that went down have better goal difference than Nottingham Forest. So, and let's face it, if they don't get off to a good start, if they're a little bit shaky earlier in the season, will that owner stick with Steve Cooper again, or will he pull the plug finally? If he pulls the plug, I think that's still a bad decision. I think Steve Cooper is an excellent manager and a good fit at Forest. But I can see that owner pulling the plug, and in which case it'll be detrimental to their chances. So I think the price of 3.75 is actually quite appealing on Nottingham Forest. The other one, Wolverhampton Wanderers. I mean, they scored 31 goals last season in 38 games. You deserve to be relegated just on that. Forget the points. If you're only scoring 31 goals, go. That is so poor. It's so poor. And it feels like they're going backwards. I mean, Lopetegui's not happy. There's no money. They're having to balance the books, aren't they? Matinho's gone. Cody's gone. Collins has gone. Raul Jimenez has gone. Okay, none of those were sensational last season, but there's still four good players. Yeah, unless they find some funds from somewhere to reinforce, especially in forward areas, they're going to score a low amount of goals again, aren't they? There's so much pressure on that defence to be solid. And if it cracks, they're in massive trouble. Suddenly those 1-0 wins turn into 0-0ers or 1-0 defeats. Do you know what I mean? Or 1-1. So, I think Wolves at 4.3 are appealing. They feel like a team that were brilliant. They were on that upward curve. And the last few seasons, it's just going the other way. And I can see them being in a scrap at the bottom.
Yes,